Good morning. Okay, I'm about to start our ongoing study of the Book of Certitude, also known as the Kitáb-I-Iqán, which is Arabic. This book was written by Baha'u'llah. Good morning, Jim. How nice to see you. This book was written by Baha'u'llah, and we're in the middle of it. We're on page 91, paragraph 106. And this book is very interesting because I find it very interesting because Baha'u'llah in this book, he talks about the prophecies from the Old and New Testament and also from the Quran. And he explains some of the inner meanings of the metaphors in these holy books, which have often traditionally been interpreted literally. When interpreted literally, they really don't make any sense. But he explains the spiritual meanings behind these metaphors, and after having studied this book for a while, it's given me, I found that I have begun to be able to look at certain things in holy texts, no matter what religion, and begin to suss out their spiritual meanings, because what he teaches in this book is a process, a way to read sacred writings that isn't literalistic, but is very, very meaningful. So many stories that have been thrown out as fantastical and ridiculous by many thinking people, such as, for instance, the story of the Garden of Eden, have become filled with deep meaning for me now that I know how to read them, and now that I realize, hey, they were never meant to be understood literally, because when a person is following a spiritual path or a religion, no matter what it is, deep reflection or meditation and prayer are an integral part of drawing closer to the divine essence. So as we read our holy books, we really have to reflect on them. We cannot be silly, because Baha'u'llah in this dispensation has explained very clearly that religion and science are two wings of one bird. They go together. They don't negate each other. We have to look at both to derive our understanding of what these holy teachings are trying to convey to us. So, in the beginning, in the last few paragraphs, Baha'u'llah went into great detail about the unknowable essence of God. So what he's saying is that the divine source cannot be comprehended by human beings, and also that any words that we use to describe it, such as all powerful, all knowing, all loving, these are human terms and they're human concepts, and they don't apply to the Creator. They apply to the most that we can understand from our human perspective. And now he's going to resolve this apparent contradiction. He's about to resolve it for us. If we cannot directly communicate with the source of our being, if we cannot describe it, if we can't even say anything about it, then how do we know about it? And how do we know how we're supposed to live our lives in order to get the meaning out of our lives, the purpose of our lives, find the purpose of our lives, fulfill our destiny? There's got to be some way if we can't directly contact God. So now Baha'u'llah is about to explain to us what that way is, what the system is that has been created to help us to know guidance. And he says on page 91, the door of the knowledge of the Ancient of Days being thus closed in the face of all beings, the source of infinite grace, according to his saying, His grace hath transcended all things. My grace hath encompassed them all. I'm assuming that's a quote from the Quran. Hath caused those luminous gems of holiness to appear out of the realm of the Spirit in the noble form of the human temple, and be made manifest unto all men, that they may impart unto the world the mysteries of the unchangeable being, and tell of the subtleties of his imperishable essence. Okay, now I understand that this is not easy to understand, especially if you've never been exposed to it. This is not easy to understand. So I'm going to break it down. I have to say, I'm just one limited human being. So anything that I share with you about my insights are just my own insights. There is for sure way deeper meanings that I cannot unveil, but I will share with you what I can understand. So it says, the door of the knowledge of the Ancient of Days being thus closed in the face of all beings. We talked about that. We can't understand God. God is beyond our capacity to understand. We can't even understand an atom, much less comprehend the reality of creation itself, much less begin to even touch the Creator. So that's what this is really saying here. It says, because of this, the source of infinite grace, and I'm going to skip the quote for now, hath caused those luminous gems of holiness to appear out of the realm of the Spirit in the noble form of the human temple and be made manifest unto all men. What's he talking about? He's talking about the divine revealers of God's word. He's calling them those luminous gems of holiness who have appeared out of the realm of the Spirit in the form, the noble form of the human temple. Jesus, Moses, Father Abraham, Muhammad, Baha'u'llah, Krishna, White Buffalo Calf Woman, Quetzalcoatl, the Peacemaker. He's saying that and we're going to go on and see what he's saying, but he's talking about the sources of divine guidance that have appeared in the world from age to age, who have guided the human race so that we would know what to do, how to live. And as he explains later on, these are not just those who came from the so-called Western world. There have been these divine messengers on every continent, all throughout the ages, and the fact that we don't know all their names is immaterial. Many of them didn't use reading and writing as a system of communication. They used a verbal communication, so they have an oral tradition. But every culture has been guided. And this is something that we're just beginning to find out in this age of mass communication and mass travel. Let's go on. That they may impart unto the world the mysteries of the unchangeable being. In other words, these divine messengers, they're the only ones that have perfect knowledge. They exist in a realm beyond human. They have human bodies, yes. Like he said, in the noble form of the human temple, that's the form. But they exist in a realm beyond that because they exist in a realm of perfection that human beings don't have access to. Just like human beings exist in a realm beyond what the animal can comprehend. And the animal exists in a realm beyond what the plant can comprehend. And the plant exists in a realm beyond what the mineral can comprehend. These divine messengers, whom we call manifestations of God, exist in their own divine realm. And their purpose is to tell us about God. Do they have direct access to God? No. But they have something that we don't have. And I can't pretend to understand it. And it's their job to impart unto us what we're supposed to do, guidance. These sanctified mirrors, why does he call them mirrors? Mirrors of the light of God. Let's go on. These sanctified mirrors, these day springs of ancient glory, are one and all the exponents on earth of him who is the central orb of the universe, its essence and ultimate purpose. They're the exponents on earth of God. I can't tell you exactly what that means, but they represent God in that they're perfect in relation to human beings. From him, that means from God, proceed their knowledge and power. From him is derived their sovereignty. These holy beings are sovereign over the world. Millions and millions of people aspire to following their teachings. Whether their human followers reflect their teachings or not, that depends on the purity of their hearts and their effort. He's talking about these divine messengers. The beauty of their countenance is but a reflection of his image. So the beauty of Christ, for instance, is but a reflection of the beauty of God, which we cannot understand. And their revelation, a sign of his deathless glory. This information that they bring to us, this soul-transforming word and teachings and their lives and their examples reflect the fact that God continues to exist no matter what we do. And God continues to send these messengers to give us hope, to inspire us, and to guide us. They are the treasuries of divine knowledge. These beings are the ones who have the final say over what's true and what isn't. And the repositories of celestial wisdom. In other words, the wisdom of God is lodged in their beings. Through them is transmitted a grace that is infinite. So when we align ourselves with these teachers, these divine messengers, a grace comes to us which doesn't end. And by them is revealed a light that can never fade. So they speak with eternal truth. Now he's going to quote again, I believe this is from the Quran again. Even as he hath said, quote, there is no distinction whatsoever between thee and them, except that they are thy servants and are created of thee. Well, now that's kind of confusing, isn't it? There's no distinction whatsoever between God and his manifestations, except that they are God's servants and are created by God. Well, that sounds like a pretty big distinction, doesn't it? Yes. But I think what what it says to me is, these manifestations of God are not literally God. In one sense, in their relationship to God, they're not God. But in relationship to human beings, they're everything that human beings could ever know of God. We cannot know God directly. This is what Baha'u'llah is telling us. But if we know his manifestations, if we know his divine messengers, that's the closest we're ever going to get. Because that is God's representation on earth. This is the significance of the tradition. I guess this is a Muslim tradition. The traditions are the sayings that were not written in the Quran. I am he himself, and he is I, myself. So that's what it means. It doesn't mean, and this is where the Baha'i faith explains some of the faulty thinking of some of the previous religious followers who have promoted ideas that were not correct. It doesn't mean that the messenger of God and God are the same thing. They're not the same thing. So, for instance, Christ is not God incarnate. Christ is the divine reflection of God. And so is Baha'u'llah. And so is Moses. And so forth. So, I'm going to, I don't know whether to continue or not. I really don't. These paragraphs are so full of meaning, and they take so much to explain them that I like to just do one. But I'll read a little bit of the next paragraph because it relates to this past paragraph. The traditions and sayings that bear direct reference to our theme are diverse and manifold. We have refrained from quoting them for the sake of brevity. So he's saying there are many more traditions and sayings about this very issue, but he's not going to keep quoting them. But it's very interesting, his next sentence. I'm going to give in and I'm going to read this next sentence. Nay, whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth is a direct evidence of the revelation within it of the attributes and names of God. Inasmuch as within every atom are enshrined the signs that bear eloquent testimony to the revelation of that most great light. What he's saying there, I really believe, is that he's saying everything that's been created, everything in the world has within it reflects God, reflects divine attributes. And we'll go more into that tomorrow, but I want to thank you for joining me, and I also want to invite you to ask questions or to give insights or to make comments. It would be really nice if this were interactive, so please feel free. And perhaps I'll be able to meet with you again tomorrow, and if not, soon. And I wish you blessings and joy and peace and harmony and love and faith. Ya Baha'u'llah, O thou glory